Good evening from TV 12. I'm Bob Howell, and this is Decision 84, the Alabama vote. Bob Ingram is joining me tonight, and Bob, we've had a huge turnout of voters in the state of Alabama today, but no real matchups, no contest to talk about so much tonight.
No cliffhangers, apparently, in Alabama. It would seem that the pollsters who have predicted landslides for Reagan and for Heflin and for Jim Sullivan, they're going to look good tonight. Apparently, there's not going to be any real close races to be resolved here.
Now, let's take a look. We do have some returns in tonight already from South Alabama, a particular referendum in the city of Enterprise, where the state legislature had given the city of Enterprise a chance to decide whether it wanted to be wet or dry. And here are the unofficial returns from Enterprise tonight. It appears that Enterprise is going wet. They are approving unofficially a 3,855 vote for the yes for alcoholic sales, 3,491 votes for no. As we have done in the past, we will keep you posted throughout the evening on all of the races from throughout our coverage area. Let's take a quick look now at exactly which races we will be bringing you and keeping you up to date on. First of all, we'll check on how Walter Mondale and Ronald Reagan did in their bid for the presidency in the state of Alabama. Then we'll move along to the U.S. Senate race between incumbent Democrat Howell Heflin and Republican challenger Albert Lee Smith. Then we'll move down to the U.S. congressional race in the 2nd District between Democrat Larry Lee and incumbent Bill Dickinson on the Republican side. Then it'll be for the Public Service Commission, the presidency between Gordon Tucker and incumbent Jim Sullivan. In the Montgomery County District Court judge race, Lynn Clardy Bright against John J.D. Cates, I should say. Another race in Montgomery County between Mac McKinney and incumbent Joel Barfoot from the County Commission, place number 5. We'll also be checking on the Board of Education, place number 7. Then we'll be going out of the county to Autauga County to check on a race there between District Court Judge Wood and Smith in that particular race between a Democrat and a Republican. And in Elmore County, there are 2 Democrats vying. It will be a write-in campaign, and that, of course, between Maherg and Curley. And in Covington County, there's a bipartisan matchup between Robbins and Harrell. That's Vernon Robbins and Walter Harrell for the County Commission, place number 3. Well, Bob Ingram, we've seen the races now, and we've gotten some early returns in, but you have said earlier, don't look for the returns to come in quickly tonight.
Well, the massive voter turnout and the fact that here in Montgomery, for example, they had to resort to using the old machines, which are much slower in counting, and they've also said that people standing in line, even now and for 5 more minutes, even if the polls close at 7, they will be allowed to vote. So I think you're going to see it's going to be quite a while before we get any real big numbers from Alabama and Montgomery, this area.
And Montgomery County, of course, Probate Judge Walker Hobby and Bob Smith had hoped that we would see Montgomery an all-electronic voting for the first time, but that just didn't happen.
It didn't quite work out. The massive turnout just ruined that little plan.
Well, we'll be back. We'll talk more with Bob Ingram, and we'll check further results from across our coverage area in just a moment.
The future of typing has just arrived at Bernie, and we'd like for you to see the future of typing, the new IBM Selectric 2000. Here are the most technologically advanced IBM typewriters ever, designed to suit every possible business need. It even has the ability of a built-in dictionary. For a free demonstration, call 269-4375. Bernie, we're an authorized IBM dealer.
There is a special feeling in Oldsmobile. There is a special feeling in Oldsmobile. More than the luxury ride, it's a feeling of pride that you feel inside. There is a
From Capital Motor Company, your Southern Olds family dealer on the Eastern Bypass.
At First Montgomery Bank, we sincerely appreciate your business. We take pride in offering you the very best in personalized service in our money market accounts, IRAs, and other services, tailored to meeting your needs and the needs of our community. We believe that people bank with people. Come see us first at First Montgomery Bank.
First Montgomery Bank.
One of the more controversial races has been in the state of Alabama, the 2nd Congressional District, Larry Lee versus incumbent Bill Dickinson. Let's go now to Larry Lee's headquarters with Susan Silvernail. Susan?
Bob, Larry Lee is making his second run at unseating candidate Bill Dickinson. 2 years ago, Larry Lee only got as far as the primaries, but the Billy Joe Camp experience taught him that Bill Dickinson is vulnerable. We have the candidate with us. Larry, you told me that you expect to win tonight with 51% of the vote. What do you base that on?
Just on a lot of hard work, Susan, the fact that we've spent the last 2 years putting together a grassroots effort, that we've taken the time to travel and visit all across this district and listen to the people and put together just what we think is a tremendous effort. We've never been backed by the finances that our opponent has, so we're basing this thought on the fact that we've just got an awful lot of people out there working for us.
And you are counting on a very large, if not an increase, in black voter turnout in the 2nd District.
Certainly, I think that we're going to see a tremendous black voter turnout.
Thank you, Larry. We want to talk to you later tonight. For Mr. Lee's prediction to run true, he must hold on to the traditional Democratic counties, the rural counties like Geneva, Henry, Barber, and Bullock. But the margin of difference for Larry Lee will be in Montgomery and Houston counties. So those are the 2 counties we will keep an eye on here through the night. Bob?
Thanks a lot. Bill Dickinson's campaign headquarters are at across town. Chris Grimshaw is there. Chris, we're only going to have about 30 seconds for some of those Republican statistics.
Well, the Republicans here in Bill Dickinson don't feel that they are as vulnerable as Larry Lee feels that he might think that Dickinson is. He thinks that Billy Joe Camp last year was strong against Dickinson because Camp was riding on the coattails of Governor Wallace, who Camp has been a long-time aide for. They don't think that will exist this year. In fact, Dickinson exudes a great deal of confidence, saying that he thinks he'll carry at least 7 of the 13 counties and will probably carry as much as 65% of the vote. That confidence, however, is tempered by some of the others who say it won't be nearly that high, maybe only 62%. They say that Lee doesn't have the recognition factor and that the Reagan sweep this year will help them in this campaign.
Thanks a lot. Chris Grimshaw live at the Republican headquarters. Bob Ingram and I will be back throughout the evening for more on Decision 84, the Alabama vote. The return should be coming in. The polls will be closing in just a couple of moments. The people inside will still get a chance to vote, and we'll have those first returns. We'll be back at 7:22.
WSFA TV 12, Montgomery.
Good evening, I'm Bob Howell, and this is Decision 84, the Alabama vote. I'm joined by my colleague Bob Ingram tonight as we're watching an election that appears to be overwhelmingly in favor of President Reagan. Alabama, no exception, and it's ballots being cast for the Republican presidential candidate.
Yes, sir. Alabama, the networks have already given Alabama to President Reagan, as the polls had predicted that it would, and by a much larger margin than he won it 4 years ago, 13,000 vote margin 4 years ago, but it's going to be much larger than that tonight. For what it's worth, we've gotten 1 box in for Montgomery. Many of the polling places are still open because of the long lines, but the absentee, of course, has been counted. It reflects pretty much the same thing. Ronald Reagan is leading Mondale, who led Mondale, I should say, in the absentee box here by a 124 to 53 margin. In the U.S. Senate race, it's much closer, suggesting some straight ticket voting. Heflin is leading, the incumbent Heflin leading the Republican Smith by 91 to 86. Then a strong crossover for Bill Dickinson, the incumbent congressman. He's just running off in hiding from Larry Lee in that 2nd district race. And the PSC, another evidence of straight ticket voting. Gordon Tucker, who is not expected to defeat the incumbent, Jim Sullivan, is leading and led in the absentee box 96 to 64. Locally, again, the Republican straight ticket voting shows that Cates, the Republican, leading the incumbent, Judge Bright, the Democrat, by 100 to 67. And then in the County Commission, place 5, Barfoot, the incumbent Republican, is leading Mac McKinney, 39 to 18. And I believe that's all the numbers we have on the board. I could say that to show you how much of a drop-off in voter interest, only 2 votes were cast in that countywide Board of Education race, and Mrs. Russell is leading Dr. Jackson 2-0 at this moment.
And that, of course, those are the absentee votes that have been counted at the Montgomery County Courthouse. We have some incomplete returns also from the Autauga County race in District Court for District Court Judge between Philip Wood and J. Myron Smith. With 4 boxes reporting from Autauga County, Wood has 822, Smith 493, so a 2-to-1 margin for the incumbent Philip Wood. in the Elmore County Commission race. That is the write-in race involving Elsie Maherg and Melvin Curley. Melvin Curley, the incumbent, who is the write-in candidate now. That race is about I would say, a 5-to-1 margin in favor of Maherg at this particular time. Melvin Curley trailing as those votes are being counted there. And with 11 boxes out of 38 reporting in the Covington County Commission race for place number 3, the incumbent, Vernon Robbins, is leading with 879 votes compared to Walter Harrell's 628. That's 879 to 628 in Covington County. And in case you missed it, in Enterprise, the city wet-dry referendum, the city of Enterprise went wet tonight. The Democrats are not, I'm sure, having a lot to jump up and down about tonight as far as the national politics are concerned. Dennis Latham of our staff is at the Democratic headquarters and is ready to talk with some of the people who have been watching the returns tonight with mixed emotions, I guess. Right, Dennis?
That's right, Bob. On one hand, they're pretty excited about some of the things they're hearing about the Heflin-Smith race, and they're also a little disappointed about some of the nationwide totals that are coming on Mondale-Ferraro. We have with us the 2nd District Coordinator for Mondale-Ferraro, Marcia Folsom. How are the Mondale-Ferraro supporters here taking some of the news from the national scene?
Well, I must admit they're quite discouraged right now. We have all worked very, very hard. We feel like that there really aren't a lot of things that we could have done here that we did not do in preparation for this election. We are still, concerned about the nationwide totals. We're also looking at coattail effects in other Senate and House seats.
What about the projections?
Projections, as far as the projections that have been made early on, we're quite discouraged that the networks feel that it's their duty to go ahead and start reporting outcomes of elections before the polls close.
Thank you very much. Marcia Folsom, 2nd District Coordinator for Mondale-Ferraro, and in a few moments, Senator Heflin is supposed to be speaking to the crowd here before he goes to other parts of Alabama. Bob?
Thanks a lot. Dennis Latham at the Democratic headquarters. We'll be back with more on Decision 84, the Alabama vote, in just a moment.
Bernie proudly presents the new IBM Selectric System 2000 typewriters. The new IBM Selectric System 2000s offer you several different fonts. They even have large type capability. And if you're lost without a dictionary, you can find one in the new IBM. Spell Check is an optional electronic dictionary that can help you proofread as you type. For free demonstration, call Bernie. Bernie, tomorrow's technology today.
There is a special feeling in Oldsmobile. There is a special feeling in Oldsmobile. More than the luxury ride, it's a feeling of pride that you feel inside. There is a special feeling in an Oldsmobile.
From Capital Motor Company, your Southern Olds family dealer on the Eastern Bypass.
At First Montgomery Bank, we sincerely appreciate your business. We take pride in offering you the very best in personalized service in our money market accounts, IRAs, and other services, tailored to meeting your needs and the needs of our community. We believe that people bank with people. Come see us first at First Montgomery Bank.
First Montgomery Bank.
Decision 84, the Alabama vote. Tonight, Bob, we will also be following, in addition to some of the races we've mentioned so far, 2 of the more hotly contested congressional races, and that, of course, in Districts 1 and 6, one with Callahan and McWright and Erdrich and Jabo Wagner in the 6th Congressional District.
Maybe 2 of the hottest, maybe the only 2 hot contests in Alabama. Of course, in Mobile, the 1st District, Jack Edwards did not choose to seek another term after 10 terms, and McWright, the Democrat, a strong candidate against Sonny Callahan, who people will remember from the legislature and lieutenant governor race. And then in Birmingham, Jabo Wagner, a former Democrat turned Republican who served many years in the legislature, running against the incumbent Ben Erdrich. And both of those are going to be hot contests, and it will be interesting to see if the Reagan coattail might carry Wagner and Callahan into office.
Well, again, we are not being flooded with returns as of this hour because of the fact that we've had such a tremendous voter turnout in the state of Alabama all across the TV12 coverage area. In fact, the polls are still open at some voting locations. As soon as they are closed and the tallies are beginning to come in, we'll have them for you. Please stay tuned. Let's go back now to Decision 84 with NBC.
WSFA, TV 12, Montgomery.
Good evening, I'm Bob Howell along with Bob Ingram on Decision 84, the Alabama vote. Here are the returns that we have so far. We are giving you Montgomery County returns this evening. In the race for president between Reagan and Bush and Mondale and Ferraro, it is 52% of the vote going for Reagan and Bush, 46% for Mondale and Ferraro. In the U.S. Senate race between Heflin and Smith, 67% of the votes have been cast for Heflin in Montgomery County so far, 31% for Smith. In the 2nd Congressional District, the percentages for Dickinson, 53.65%, 45.6% for the Democrat Larry Lee. In the race for Public Service Commission president, it is Sullivan with 62% of the vote and Tucker with 37%. In the race for local district judge, place number 1, Bright has 67% of the vote, Cates with 32.25% of the votes. In the race for county commission, place number 5 in Montgomery County, Joel Barfoot, the incumbent, with 58.6%, Mac McKinney with 41.3%. And in the Board of Education race, place number 7, it is Jackson with 57.15%. That's 57%. Russell with 42%. Budget isolation is passing overwhelmingly in Montgomery County, and the hunting license vote is no so far in Montgomery County. Bob Ingram, some thoughts about the way the voting is divided, if you will, by voting precincts in the city.
It's going as we anticipated that it would. Predominantly black vote is going for Mondale. I made a quick check. Carver High School box went 1250 to 39 for Mondale. Bellingrass School, 650 to 90 for Mondale. But on the flip side, Southeast Y was 2900 to 400 Reagan. Vaughn Road, 2800 to 450 for Reagan. So it's a sharp division there.
One of the races that we told you about a moment ago is the U.S. Senate race between Howell Heflin and Albert Lee Smith. The incumbent Democratic candidate is outpolling his opponent by about a 2-to-1 margin. Let's go now live to the headquarters of the Democratic Party in the city of Montgomery, and Senator Heflin is standing by with reporter Dennis Latham. Dennis?
That's right, Bob. We're here with U.S. Senator Howell Heflin. Senator Heflin, in the last couple of days of your campaign, you've been talking about a big win, and a big win for you would mean help for people in Alabama, in Washington. Tell us a little bit more about this help.
Well, the average senator will win about 52, 53%. If I win big from 60 to 70%, then it means I can be more effective for Alabama. The bureaucrats, the staff, my colleagues, everybody in Washington follows these races. If I win big, that puts me in a category separate and apart from the rest of the senators. Therefore, I'll have more respect. I can therefore be more effective, and more effective for the state of Alabama.
Thank you very much, U.S. Senator Howell Heflin. Bob?
Thanks a lot. Dennis Latham is at the Democratic headquarters live. This just in, the Associated Press has called U.S. Representative Bill Dickinson of Montgomery the winner in the 2nd Congressional District race against his Democratic opponent, Larry Lee. More on that from the GOP headquarters coming up in a moment when Decision 84, the Alabama vote, continues.
Hey, catch what Captain D's has new and different to satisfy your seafood cravings. Our new stuffed crab dinner. 3 generous helpings of tasty, tender crab meat and deliciously light breading stuffed inside natural crab shells and dished up with the captain's favorite fixins. It's worth hurrying in for.
Looks like something I would get at a much more expensive restaurant.
It's surprising, yes, especially for fast food. This is original here.
There's a special feeling in Oldsmobile. There is a special feeling in Oldsmobile. More than the luxury ride, it's a feeling of pride that you feel inside. There is a special feeling in an Oldsmobile.
Capital Motor Company, your Southern Olds family dealer on the Eastern Bypass.
South Trust Bank. We're working harder for you.
The Republicans obviously are glad to hear the news. The Associated Press calling the race for Bill Dickinson tonight. Let's go to the GOP headquarters here. Bob McKee is with Chris Grimshaw. Chris?
Bob, no great cheers a couple of minutes ago when you announced that Dickinson had been named the winner by the Associated Press in the 2nd Congressional District race. Apparently, a lot of people are not, they're basically socializing right now. The congressman is not here, and there have not been much word about the fact that the congressman has been projected the winner. With me is Bob McKee, the Reagan-Bush Montgomery County chairman. Very quickly, we are talking about the fact that Reagan has a lead in Alabama according to early projections, and did so 4 years ago. Does that mean that Alabama is turning Republican?
No, I don't think it means that. I think that it means that people are still independent in their voting. I think it just means they were turned off by the Mondale-Ferraro ticket and turned on by the Reagan ticket. The patriotism, leadership, economy, national defense, all these things, very important. And the morality factor, very important to the people in Alabama.
The independent vote pendulum still to the conservative side.
I think that's right, and I think that what it does mean, and Alabama is not necessarily a Democratic state any longer, and that conservatives seeking office, especially for the first time, going to look very carefully at the party before they decide to run as a Democrat.
Thank you, Bob. Bob?
Thanks a lot. Chris Grimshaw with Bob McKee at the Republican headquarters here in Montgomery. Let's go quickly. Votes from Watauga County in the race for district court judge. Incumbent Philip Wood with 822, Myron Smith with 493. In the Elmore County Commission race with 56 boxes out and 18 of them reporting so far, it is Elsie Maherg, the Democrat, with 2422. The write-in for Elsie, or I should say for Melvin Curley with 758. In Covington County, 26 of 38 boxes, so we're getting close there. The race is tightening somewhat. It is Robbins with 4595, Walter Harold, who is the challenger, with 3158. And in case you're just joining us, in the city of Enterprise, the wet, dry vote there was yes, 3,855, no, 3,491. We'll be checking more with the Houston County race coming up a little later in tonight's program. We will be back with more on Decision 84, the Alabama vote, coming up at 22 minutes past the hour of 8 o'clock with more live reports from the candidates' headquarters. Please make your plans to stay with us. Let's go back now to NBC for more of Decision 84.
WSFA TV 12, Montgomery.
Decision 84 election night.
Good evening, I'm Bob Howell, along with Bob Ingram with Decision 84, the Alabama vote. Here are the numbers from Montgomery County as we have them up until now, with approximately 150 out of 190 boxes reporting. Walter Mondale and Ronald Reagan, as you can see, the percentage breakdown there is 63% for the Reagan-Bush ticket and 35% for Mondale-Ferraro. In the race for U.S. Senator between Heflin and Smith, Heflin with 61.6%, Smith with 37.6%. In the 2nd Congressional District race between Lee and Dickinson, it is Dickinson now in the Montgomery County voting with 63%, Lee with 36%. In the race for Public Service Commission President between Sullivan and Tucker, it is Sullivan with 59.8%, Tucker with 38.5% of the votes counted. And in the judicial place number 1 district court judge, 61% of the votes so far for incumbent Lynn Clardy Bright and 38% for Cates. In county commission place number 5 between Barfoot and McKinney, Barfoot with 60.1% of the vote, or I should say 60.6% of the vote, and McKinney with 39%. In the Board of Education place number 7 between Jackson and Russell, it is a very close race as we have it until now. Jackson with 50.7%, Russell with 49.2%. Again, the constitutional amendments, budget isolation is passing, and hunting license is not passing. Let's go to Bob Ingram for some thoughts on this and the other races across the congressional districts of the state.
Bob, we mentioned earlier that two races we would be watching are in Mobile and Birmingham, where in Mobile, Sonny Callahan is taking on Democrat nominee Frank McBride, and with approximately half of the votes counted in that district, McBride has a very thin lead, 55,000 to 52,000. Up in Birmingham, with even fewer votes counted, only 6 out of 152 boxes, the Democrat incumbent, Ben Erdrich, is leading by about a 64-36% margin over Jabo Waggoner. But again, that is very, very early. The other congressmen who have only token opposition are just blowing their opponents away. Bill Nichols, for example, is leading his Libertarian candidate by 60,000 to 2,000. So those are no contest.
No contest. Larry Lee is the second congressional district candidate on the Democratic side of the ticket. He is not conceding, he says. Susan Silvernail is standing by live for a report from the Larry Lee headquarters. Susan?
Bob, the game plan for the Larry Lee campaign was to come on strong in the rural counties, but it's not happening. Larry Lee wanted Bullitt County by 75 to 80%, but that's not what happened. Your figures in Bullitt County show what, Larry?
Oh, roughly about 65%, something like that.
Why do you think you are not holding on to these rural counties?
I have no earthly idea. I'm just real surprised. The fact that we've lost Crenshaw County, evidently the scattered return, Susan, that we've had, and also lost Geneva County, comes as a real surprise to me with my agriculture background and some of these kinds of things. But I think the fact that, you're looking at obviously Ronald Reagan has some strength, and we're looking at that in the fact that our opponent spent $300,000, we had $40,000. That's an awful lot to try to make up for.
The Associated Press has already projected Bill Dickinson the winner in this race. How do you feel about that? Are you conceding the race?
No, not at this point in time. We're going to wait just a little while longer and, see how things go along. But I still have to be real pleased with the way we've come an awful long way in 2 years. And so, we're grateful for what we have gotten.
Okay, there you have Larry Lee watching that Republican straight ticket voting and a little disappointed with some of the showings in the traditional Democratic rural counties. Bob?
Thanks a lot, Susan Silvernail at Larry Lee's headquarters. We'll be back with more on Decision 84, the Alabama vote, in just a moment. Stay with us.
Bernie proudly presents the new IBM Selectric System 2000 typewriters. The new IBM Selectric System 2000s offer you several different fonts. They even have large type capability. And if you're lost without a dictionary, you can find one in the new IBM. Spell Check is an optional electronic dictionary that can help you proofread as you type. For a free demonstration, call Bernie. Bernie, tomorrow's technology today.
At First Montgomery Bank, we sincerely appreciate your business. We take pride in offering you the very best in personalized service in our money market accounts, IRAs, and other services, tailored to meeting your needs and the needs of our community. We believe that people bank with people. Come see us first at First Montgomery Bank.
First Montgomery Bank.
Howdy, this is Rhubarb Jones, and I like things when they're funny. But when you're having car trouble, it's nothing to joke about. That's why it's important to find an auto mechanic who's dependable and trustworthy. And that's exactly what you'll find here at Eastdale Car Care Center. Eastdale Car Care is owned and operated by good old Montgomery people whose only business is service and repair work, both foreign and domestic. They're open Monday through Saturday and even have a courtesy car. That's Eastdale Car Care, just off the Atlanta Highway across from Eastdale Mall.
Let's find out now what's going on in Autauga County with 16 of the 36 boxes reporting so far. The incumbent Philip Wood in the district court judge race there, 44-26 with Myron Smith with 23-34. In Elmore County, in the write-in race, they're actually between two Democrats, as you can see, with 28 of 56 boxes reporting. That's exactly 50% of the boxes reporting. Elsie Maher with 33-39. Melvin Curley, the write-in candidate, with 1,253 votes. Down in Covington County, almost all of the votes have been counted there. 37 of the 38 boxes are now reporting. The incumbent Vernon Robinson, who is also the Democrat with 6,695 votes, or 69.90, that should be 66.95, and Walter Harrell, the Republican, with 45.58. And of course, those of you who have not been following the Enterprise wet-dry referendum, Enterprise has voted to go wet. And Bob Ingram, what do you see so far in this short and somewhat uninspiring?
I wondered if anyone noticed as we were giving the Montgomery County returns a moment ago, don't ever say that they don't know how to split a ticket. Reagan was beating Mondale 38-22, a Republican beating a Democrat. Then Heflin was beating his opponent Smith by almost the identical vote, and then Dickinson was beating his opponent by the identical vote. They went back and forth across the ballot like a snake. You flat know how to split a ticket, and those numbers prove it.
Thanks a lot. Bob Ingram and I will be back with more on Decision 84, the Alabama vote, coming up at 8:52. Please make your plans to join us. We'll be back with more live reports from the candidates' headquarters, plus an updated total from Montgomery County, and we'll begin to bring you the statewide totals from across Alabama as Decision 84 continues. Let's go back now and rejoin NBC for Decision 84.
WSFA TV 12 Montgomery.
Reagan, I should say, let me correct that percentage. That is 60.2% went with Ronald Reagan as compared to 39% with Mondale and Ferraro. In the U.S. Senate race between Heflin and Smith, 63.5% of the voters went with Heflin and 35.8% went with Smith. In Dickinson and Lee's race for the 2nd Congressional District, 60% for Dickinson, roughly 40% of the voters have gone for Democrat Larry Lee. In the Public Service Commission race, Montgomery County, 61% of the voters went for Jim Sullivan, as opposed to Gordon Tucker's 37.6%. In the district court judge place number 1 between Bright and Cates, it is a 63-36 split there. Between Barfoot and McKinney in the county commission race, as you can see the numbers, Barfoot with 60.7%, McKinney with 39.3%. The Board of Education race between Jackson and Russell, and that one is closer. It is Jackson with 53.5%. Russell with 46.9. The numbers, if you're interested there in the Board of Education race, Jackson with 29,868, Russell with 25,949. The amendments, budget isolation, yes, by an overwhelming margin, and the hunting license, no, by a 2-to-1 margin. Let's go to Bob Ingram for his thoughts. Bob?
Well, Bob, I'm marveling at the voter turnout. We had hoped and encouraged you people to go to the polls, but I mean, you overdid it almost. At this point in time, with about 4 boxes, I believe, 4 precincts yet to be counted, in Montgomery County, 68,500 votes have been cast. The previous all-time record was 4 years ago tonight when 63,000 were cast. So we've had one massive turnout, and apparently the same thing has happened all over the state. The state record is 1,250,000, and it's destined to be broken tonight, too. It's been an incredible performance by the voters.
And there are so many more voters to go to the polls.
Yes, and the percentage, you gave me the numbers a minute ago, what, 53 or 4%?
54.5% of the voters that we can account for.
That's incredible. It speaks well of you.
Well, there were a lot of people voting out there, trying to vote. There were problems with the tabulations, with the electronic machines. We had to open up some of the mechanical machines. Montgomery County hoping to be the only county in the entire country to be all electronic, but it just wasn't to be. And the problems apparently have not stopped with the electronic machines there, but also at the courthouse tonight. Tom Foreman is upstairs in the TV 12 newsroom, and Tom, understand there is still some confusion and more electronic problems down at the courthouse counting the votes.
Bob, the massive voter turnout has not helped the situation down there at all. We just returned just a moment ago. Back down at the courthouse, if you'll take a look now, there is a backlog of all the votes that have been coming in throughout the day. You can see them piled on the table in envelopes. There are small electronic cartridges coming in from the new electronic voting machines. Now, the voting machines are being praised by voting officials as being very fast in the field, but the problem is occurring, as you can see, at the courthouse. They're working on the computers now, trying to get them to work better at reading the votes there. The problem, we are told, is not in the computer system there that is reading the votes. Rather, it is in the power system at the county courthouse. Fluctuations in the power are causing the computer to have problems in reading those small electronic cartridges. Now then, that is going to present some problems as the evening goes on. Voting officials had hoped they'd have everything added up by about 10 o'clock tonight, maybe even earlier. Now it looks like it's going to be an all-night long operation, maybe even longer. because there are problems within the system. They're going to have to check out the system, see what's wrong. They say there's no problem with any of the votes being recorded. The votes are all saved, they're all stored. It's just going to be a matter of how long it will take to get those votes out of storage and out where we can see exactly how Montgomery voters voted in this election.
Thanks a lot. Tom Foreman, who is live in the TV 12 newsroom, will be back with more on Decision 84, the Alabama vote, in just a moment. Stay with us.
Hey, catch what Captain D's has new and different to satisfy your seafood cravings. Our new stuffed crab dinner. 3 generous helpings of tasty, tender crab meat and deliciously light breading stuffed inside natural crab shells and dished up with the captain's favorite fixins. It's worth hurrying in for.
Looks like something I would get at a much more expensive restaurant.
It's surprising. Yes, especially for fast food. This is original here.
Electricity not only works for people, electricity puts people to work.
Taking a look at our weather. Runway 1 left, hold short traffic on Mountain.
Electricity, the heartbeat that keeps America going.
There is a special feeling in Oldsmobile. There is a special feeling in Oldsmobile. More than the luxury ride, it's a feeling of pride that you feel inside. There is a special feeling in an Oldsmobile.
From Capital Motor Company, your Southern Olds family dealer on the Eastern Bypass.
The Republicans in town tonight at the Governor's House Motel. Chris Grimshaw is there. And Chris, one of the, well, he's somewhere in that black hole behind us there. Chris Grimshaw will be telling us momentarily, I hope, about the fact that the young Republicans, the yuppies as they're called, the young urban professionals as they like to be called, are having quite a field day today and enjoying quite a bit of revelry, I guess you could say, with President Reagan's overwhelming victory, not only in the state of Alabama but elsewhere. Apparently we're having some problems getting Chris Grimshaw's report up. I'll tell you what we will do. We will press on now and go to some of our area returns. Let's call up, if we can, the Otauga County races. In the district court judge race there, you can see Philip Wood, the incumbent. We still only have 16 of 36 boxes counted, but we understand those represent probably the most populous of the boxes which have been counted. In Elmore County, the write-in campaign of Melvin Curley, with 34 of 56 boxes counted, is falling well short. Curley is the Democrat listed second on your screen who is vying in that particular county commission race. In the Covington County race, with 37 of 38 boxes counted, no change there. The incumbent Robinson is still leading his Republican opponent, as you can see the numbers on the screen. Well, that is it for this installment of Decision 84, the Alabama vote. We'll be switching over to statewide returns. We'll bring you up to date on the 2nd Congressional District, the Public Service Commission, and more coming up in 20 minutes.
WSFA TV 12, Montgomery.
Decision 84 election night continues. Sponsored by Sun Company, where there's sun, there's energy. By AT&T, we're reaching out in new directions. And by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? Now from the NBC News election.
The country was time.
Good evening once again. I'm Bob Howell along with Bob Ingram with Decision 84, the Alabama vote. We're going to be showing you vote totals now from across the state of Alabama. We have closed out Montgomery County. Let's take a look now at how the Reagan-Mondale battle went in the state of Alabama. President Reagan with 448,525 as compared to Walter Mondale's 295,504. And moving down to the U.S. Senate race, again, Howell Heflin has won another 6 years in Washington. The totals there, Heflin 441,221, Smith, the Republican challenger, with 236,556 votes. In the 2nd Congressional District, Larry Lee has gone down to defeat at the hands of 11-term Congressman Bill Dickinson. The vote totals that we have district-wide so far show about a 60-40 split there with Dickinson and Lee, 54,817 Lee with 36,973. About 7 or 8 minutes ago, the challenger on the Democratic side, Larry Lee, conceded that he has lost this race. We were at his headquarters when he made this concession speech only a few moments ago.
Naturally, I'm disappointed that our effort fell short. But my disappointment is not so much for myself, it is for those hundreds of people who joined together in our cause, especially my mother and father who are standing here with me tonight. Because it was their work and their support, not mine, that brought us this far. But while I'm disappointed, I'm not dejected. Because the good experiences of my campaign and the lessons I've learned will remain far longer than the brief disappointment of just this night. More than ever before in my life, I understand what it means to be an American. Because I will always be thankful that God granted me life in this greatest of all countries.
Larry Lee conceding tonight defeat at the hands of Republican Bill Dickinson. However, Larry Lee left the political door open, saying that he would definitely be interested in 1986. We'll be back. We'll be going to the Republican headquarters and Bill Dickinson's reaction to his victory once again. Stay with us.
The future of typing has just arrived at Bernie, and we'd like for you to see the future of typing. The new IBM Selectric 2000. Here are the most technologically advanced IBM typewriters ever, designed to suit every possible business need. It even has the ability of a built-in dictionary. For a free demonstration, call 269-4375. Bernie, we're an authorized IBM dealer.
At First Montgomery Bank, we sincerely appreciate your business. We take pride in offering you the very best in personalized service in our money market accounts, IRAs, and other services, tailored to meeting your needs and the needs of our community. We believe that people bank with people. Come see us first at First Montgomery Bank.
First Montgomery Bank.
The harvest is in. Now it's time to enjoy autumn's bounty during Winn-Dixie's Harvest of Best Brand sale. Always a favorite, premium grade fresh fryer leg quarters, now a low 39 cents a pound. And dress a salad with Wesson oil. It's just $1.89 at Winn-Dixie. Make some delicious chili tonight. The WD brand lean ground beef you'll need is only 89 cents a pound.
Winn-Dixie.
It's the Harvest of Best Brand sale.
Earlier in the evening, the Associated Press called Bill Dickinson the winner. Now Larry Lee has conceded. Let's go now to Chris Grimshaw, who's standing by with the Republican winner in the 2nd District. Chris?
Congressman Dickinson, a few minutes ago, Larry Lee conceded the race. Earlier in the race, you had projected as much as a 65% victory. That was not the case. It was around 60% if the trend continues.
Well, I don't want to be a sore loser or a sore winner. I'll take the 60. No, I really thought that the way that the tide was going a few days ago, that 65% might be a realistic figure. However, in the office pool today, I picked 60%, so I might win the money.
You, during the campaign, were talking about the fact that Larry Lee did not have a high recognition factor. How do you feel about his campaign against you this year and the fact that he expresses interest in 1986?
Well, I would hope that Mr. Lee would have learned something from this race. This is the 2nd time he's run. And if he wants to run 2 years from now, fine. I can't think of anybody I'd rather run against than Mr. Lee.
You feel like he's an easy opponent then?
Well, I would say that I've run an affirmative campaign. The only thing I've ever talked about during the entire campaign was what I stood for and things I have done and want to do, and never mentioned him at all. I think that a negative campaign is a losing campaign, and I've been affirmative throughout. Evidently, the people agree with me. And,
you picked up a number of counties you lost 2 years ago.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I'm told that I probably have lost 2 out of 13, which ain't bad.
What does that say about the rural vote for you?
Are you picking up the agricultural vote?
Oh, yes. And then, well, now you could take Houston County, for instance. We have Dothan there, but it's still, that is the heart of peanut country, and I'm winning that by almost 4-1. Picked up Henry County, which is all rural. Well, most of my district is rural, with the exception of Montgomery, and so I only lost two counties out of 13. So I think it pretty well speaks for itself that I am a representative of the farmer, and they recognize it, as well as the rural and the military, and it all together goes in to make for a good, strong constituency. They're great people. I enjoy working with them because they're my kind.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Congressman. Bob?
Thanks a lot. Chris Grimshaw live at the governor's house with the Republicans. Bill Dickinson, the winner in the 2nd District, again going in for his 11th term in office. Jim Sullivan is being touted as the man who has won the presidency of the Public Service Commission over his challenger, Gordon Tucker. In local election coverage tonight in the race for District Judge, Place 1, Lynn Bright apparently has walked away with that with a 61% of the vote. Joel Barfoot is the apparent winner in the Commission Place 5, Montgomery County Commission, I should say. In the Board of Education, still a very close race there.